Matt's hands shook. 9 months of solo parenting since the custody battle, and he still felt like a fraud. In boardrooms, he commanded respect with a single glance. Here, covered in baby vomit at 30,000 feet, he was just another clueless father drowning in his own inadequacy, until he witnessed someone who just had the touch. That natural gift that can't be bought or taught. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The billionaire who built an empire on control was about to lose everything to a 10-month-old baby throwing up on his Armani suit. What happens when a man who controls millions can't control his own child? Have you ever been completely out of your depth in public? When everyone was watching you fail? This is about more than a crying baby. It's about the moment pride meets desperation. Wait until you see who saves him. Matthew Roth gripped his son tighter as Milo screamed louder than the jet engines. Vomit covered his $2,000 custom suit, the leather seats, and now splattered across a flight attendant's polished shoes. Every passenger in first class turned to stare. Their whispers cut through the cabin noise like knives. Can't you control that child? An elderly woman clutched her pearls. Matt's hand shook. 9 months of solo parenting since the custody battle, and he still felt like a fraud. In boardrooms, he commanded respect with a single glance. Here, covered in baby vomit at 30,000 feet, he was just another clueless father drowning in his own inadequacy. The flight attendants offered fake smiles and thin towels. Passengers lifted their champagne glasses higher, creating barriers between themselves and his disaster. The judgment felt thick enough to choke on. But one person didn't even look up. She sat in economy, past the curtain that separated his world from hers. Dark skin, mid-20s, wearing thrifted jeans and a faded sweater. Her notebook lay open, pen moving across pages like she was writing something important. While his world crumbled in expensive chaos, she remained completely unbothered. Milo's cries reached a new octave. His tiny face turned purple with rage and frustration. Matt bounced him desperately, tried the bottle, changed his position. Nothing worked. The baby's hyperventilation scared him more than any hostile takeover. That's when she stood up, the quiet woman in economy who hadn't glanced his way once. She walked straight toward him, past every empty first-class seat, her movements calm and purposeful. Other passengers watched in shock as she crossed the invisible line between their worlds. If you've ever felt like a failure when you needed to be strong, this story will hit different. Hit that like button if you're ready for a journey. Then she did something that stopped the entire plane cold. She took his baby without asking permission. And somehow, that act of defiance became the most beautiful thing he'd ever witnessed. She took his baby without asking permission. And somehow, that act of defiance became the most beautiful thing he'd ever witnessed. Her hands moved with practiced confidence, finding the exact pressure point behind Milo's ear. A technique learned from years of comforting other people's pain. The crying stopped like someone had flipped a switch. The cabin fell silent except for the engine's steady hum. Every jaw dropped. Matt stared in disbelief as his son melted into this stranger's arms, finally peaceful after hours of chaos. She wore no jewelry, no makeup, no signs of the wealth surrounding them. Yet she held his child like she was born for this moment. Her fingers traced gentle circles on Milo's back, and she whispered something too soft to hear. The baby's breathing slowed to normal. Matt felt something stir that had nothing to do with gratitude. The way her lips moved against Milo's forehead. How her breath created tiny clouds on the baby's skin. The grace in her movements made the expensive cabin feel cheap by comparison. Ow! His voice cracked. How did you do that? She looked him dead in the eye for the first time. No, awed his designer clothes. No recognition of his famous face. Just steady assessment, like she was measuring his worth by something he couldn't buy. I've held babies like this all my life, she said quietly, but never one that cost more than my entire future. The words hit him like cold water. This wasn't about his money or status. This was about competence he'd never learned, skills he'd never needed until now. She possessed something his billions couldn't purchase, the natural ability to heal. Around them, first-class passengers shifted uncomfortably. The sight of a black woman in economy clothes calming a white billionaire's baby challenged every assumption about who belonged where, who had value, who possessed real power. Matt watched her rock Milo with a kind of rhythm that couldn't be taught. Her presence transformed the space. The tension dissolved. Even the flight attendants relaxed. Have you ever witnessed someone who just had the touch? That natural gift that can't be bought or taught. Share your story below. Drop a heart if you've ever been saved by a stranger's kindness. As she handed Milo back, their fingers brushed. For 3 seconds, neither pulled away. In those 3 seconds, Matt felt something he'd never experienced in 39 years of getting everything he wanted. The fear of losing something he'd never had. He offered her first-class comfort, but what she wanted couldn't be purchased with platinum cards or private jets. "You should sit up here," Matt said, gesturing toward the empty seat beside him. "You're clearly better with him than I am." She glanced at the leather chairs, the crystal glasses, the personal entertainment screens. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Not desire exactly, but acknowledgement of comfort she'd never known. "I can help her back there," she said, already stepping away. "Please." The word came out rougher than he intended. "For Milo's sake." That stopped her. She looked at the baby, now calm in his father's arms, then at the other passengers watching their exchange with barely concealed curiosity. "Fine," she said, "but I'm not your entertainment." The first-class cabin seemed to shrink as she settled into the leather seat beside him. Her thrifted sweater looked out of place among the designer fabrics, yet somehow she made the luxury seem cheap. Like authenticity had more value than all the money surrounding them. "I'm Matt," he said, extending his hand. "Nia." Her handshake was firm, brief, professional. "And before you ask, yes, I know who you are." The admission surprised him. Most people either fawned over his wealth or pretended ignorance while calculating what they could gain. She didn't either. "Then you know I can afford to upgrade your ticket," he said. "Your baby needed help. That doesn't make us friends." Her directness cut through every social nicety he'd learned. No game playing, no hidden agenda he could identify. Just brutal honesty wrapped in tired defiance. "What will make us friends?" he asked. "Time travel, so I could go back and warn myself not to care about crying babies." The flight attendant appeared with champagne for Matt, nothing for Nia. The slight wasn't lost on either of them. Matt waved the drink away. "2 coffees," he said. "Black. When someone helps you, do you feel grateful or indebted? What's the difference? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you believe kindness doesn't need a reason, and that sometimes the best people are the ones who don't want anything from you." Turbulence hit suddenly, shaking the cabin. Milo's face scrunched, ready to cry again. Instinctively, Nia reached for the baby. But this time, Matt's hand covered hers, stopping her. "My turn to try," he said. What happened next surprised them both. She taught a billionaire how to hold his own child, and in that lesson, he glimpsed the man he could have been. Matt tried to copy her technique. His large hands felt clumsy against Milo's tiny frame. The pressure points she'd found so easily eluded him. The baby's whimpers grew louder. "Softer," Nia whispered, her hand guiding his on Milo's back. "Like you're touching water, not trying to move it." Her fingers covered his, showing him the exact rhythm. The contact sent electricity up his arm, but he forced himself to focus on his son. Her breath tickled his neck as she adjusted his posture. "There," she said as Milo quieted. "Feel how he relaxes when you stop trying so hard." Their reflection in the airplane window showed 2 strangers leaning toward each other over a sleeping baby. Like a family photo that would never exist, captured only in glass and sky. "I never learned this stuff," Matt admitted. "My father left when I was 8. I swore I'd be different, but I don't know how to be different." "Learning takes time," Nia said. "Rich people just think money speeds up everything." "You really hate rich people, don't you?" "I hate the system that makes them rich while keeping everyone else desperate." Her honesty should have offended him. Instead, it fascinated him. When was the last time someone challenged his worldview without wanting something in return? "What's your story?" he asked. "Going to my mother's funeral in LA. She raised 6 kids working 3 jobs. Never saw a doctor until the cancer was too far gone. Her voice stayed steady, but her knuckles went white. Medical bills ate everything. I lost my nursing scholarship paying for treatments that didn't work. The pain in her words made his chest tight. His problems seemed pathetic by comparison. Custody battles with lawyers who cost more than most people's annual salary. A divorce that was inconvenient, not devastating. I have everything I thought I wanted, he said quietly, but I don't know how to want what I have. Maybe that's because you've never had to fight for anything that mattered. The accusation stung because it rang true. His success came from intelligence and ruthlessness, but not from sacrifice. Not from choosing between medicine and food, love, and survival. Have you ever taught someone something you thought was obvious, only to realize they'd never learned it? What was it? Share below. Hit that notification bell if you believe we all have something to learn from each other, regardless of where we come from. As Milo slept peacefully between them, Matt made a decision that would change everything. When we land, let me drive you to the funeral. It's the least I can do. Her response wasn't what he expected, and it definitely wasn't yes. She said no to his offer, yes to his number, and maybe to something neither of them was ready to name. I don't need a ride, Nia said as the plane descended toward LAX. It's not about need. It's about. Matt searched for the right word. Decency. Decency. She almost smiled. You think basic human kindness makes you decent? I think you helped when nobody else would. That means something. The plane touched down with a gentle bump. Around them, passengers gathered belongings, checked phones, returned to their separate lives. But neither Matt nor Nia moved to stand. My mother taught me to help when I could, she said. That's not special. That's just being human. It felt special. The words hung between them, heavier than he'd intended. Nia turned to study his face, looking for the lie, the angle, the hidden agenda. She found only exhaustion and something that might have been loneliness. You don't know me, she said finally. I know you calmed my son when I couldn't. I know you asked for nothing in return. I know you're going to a funeral alone. He shifted Milo to one arm, pulled out his phone. I know I don't want to wonder what happened to you. LAX stretched before them like a concrete ocean, thousands of travelers flowing in currents that would carry them to separate lives. Yet they stood still, creating a small island of hesitation in the chaos. Nia typed his number into her cracked phone screen. Her fingers hesitated over the save button. This doesn't make us friends, she said. I know, and I don't date rich guys. Noted, and I'm probably moving back to Detroit after this. Understood. She saved the contact anyway. Their goodbye hug lasted too long. Her hand lingered on his chest, right over his heart. She looked back, twice walking toward baggage claim. He watched until she disappeared into the crowd. 3 hours later, Matt sat in his Beverly Hills hotel suite, staring at her number in his phone. The silence felt different now. Not peaceful, empty. Milo babbled happily in his carrier, content after their flight. But Matt couldn't stop thinking about gentle hands and honest words. When was the last time saying goodbye to someone you barely knew felt like a mistake? Have you ever felt an instant connection that logic couldn't explain? Comment below if you think she should have taken a ride, and why or why not. Meanwhile, Nia stood at her mother's gravesite making a promise that would bring her back into her life in the most unexpected way. But first, she had to survive what happened that night. Some phone calls come at 2 a.m. because the world is ending. Others come because it's just beginning. Matt's phone buzzed against the hotel nightstand. Unknown number. He almost ignored it until he remembered giving his contact to someone who might need help. Hello. His voice came out rough with sleep. It's Nia. Her words shook like autumn leaves. I shouldn't have called you. He sat up instantly, fully awake. Milo stirred in the crib beside his bed, but stayed sleeping. What's wrong? I'm at Cedars-Sinai. Emergency room. A shaky breath carried through the phone. Someone attacked me after the funeral. They took my purse, my mother's jewelry. Everything. Matt was already reaching for his clothes. Phone pressed between his shoulder and ear. Are you hurt? Some bruises. A few stitches. Nothing broken. Her voice cracked. But I don't have insurance for this. I don't have money for any of this. I'm coming. No, you don't understand. I can't pay you back. I have nothing left. Nothing. I'm not asking for anything back." The silence stretched between them, filled with everything neither could say. She called him because she had no one else. He was coming because he couldn't imagine doing anything else. 20 minutes later, Matt walked into the hospital carrying Milo's car seat. The fluorescence turned everything ghostly pale. Her bruises, his expensive clothes, the space between them that suddenly felt charged with more than just crisis. Nia sat on the examination table in a hospital gown that made her look younger, smaller than she had on the plane. Purple bruises decorated her left cheek and collarbone like ugly paint. Butterfly bandages held a cut on her forehead closed. "You came," she said, like she couldn't believe it. "You called." The simple exchange carried weight neither wanted to examine. Matt set Milo's carrier down, approached slowly like she might disappear if he moved too fast. "What happened?" "Three guys jumped me in the parking lot after the service. Said I didn't belong in that neighborhood." Her voice stayed steady, but her hands shook against the thin hospital blanket. "They knew I'd been at a funeral. They were waiting." Rage burned hot in Matt's chest. This woman who'd shown kindness to a stranger's child, attacked for existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. "I'm completely alone now," she whispered. "My mother was all I had left. No family, no money, no plan. I don't even know where I'm sleeping tonight." Matt pulled out his phone without hesitation. Insurance coordinator first, then billing department, then his personal attorney. Numbers he'd memorized for emergencies that had never felt this urgent. "What are you doing?" Nia asked, watching him make call after call. "Fixing this. I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing to help." Within an hour, every bill was covered. Her medical costs, follow-up appointments, prescription medications, even replacement documents. Matt signed forms and made transfers while Nia watched in stunned silence. The nurse came in with discharge papers. "You're all set, honey. Everything's been taken care of." Nia stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. "I don't understand." "Your husband handled everything," the nurse said cheerfully. Neither corrected her. "Have you ever called someone you barely knew in a crisis? What made you trust them? Share your story." Like this video, if you believe sometimes strangers become family faster than family become strangers. As he signed the final hospital paperwork, she grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "This doesn't make me yours," she whispered fiercely. He leaned closer, voice dropping to barely audible. "Good. Because I was starting to think I might be yours." She healed in his guest room for a week, but the real recovery happened in conversations that stretched past midnight. Matt's Beverly Hills house felt like a museum, all glass and marble, designed to impress rather than comfort. Clean lines and cold surfaces that echoed with emptiness. But something changed when Nia moved through it. Her presence made the spaces feel warmer, lived in. "You don't have to stay," she said for the 10th time that morning, standing in the doorway of the guest suite. She wore clothes he'd bought her, simple jeans and a soft sweater that made her skin glow. "Doctor said someone should watch for concussion symptoms," Matt replied, not looking up from feeding Milo breakfast in the high chair. "I'm fine. You passed out yesterday, folding laundry." That was different, but she didn't leave. And Matt didn't ask her to. Their days developed a rhythm that felt dangerously like family. Matt worked from his home office while Nia recovered, taking calls and video meetings between checking on her. She helped with Milo when she felt strong enough, teaching Matt tricks she'd learned caring for her younger siblings back in Detroit. How to read the baby's different cries. Hungry versus tired versus just wanting attention. Which foods would make him sleep longer through the night. Why bouncing worked better than rocking for some babies. The exact pressure point behind his ears that would calm him instantly. "You're a natural teacher," Matt said one afternoon, watching her show him how to burp Milo properly. "I raised 5 kids younger than me. You learn fast when there's no choice." Evenings found them by the infinity pool, city lights reflecting like fallen stars in the still water. They sat at the edge with Milo between them in his bouncy seat, their feet dangling in the warm water, while night air carried the scent of jasmine from the landscaped gardens. "Tell me about your mother," Matt said one night, watching Nia trace patterns in the pool water. "She was everything I'm not. Patient, forgiving, gentle." Nia's voice went soft with memory. She'd give her last dollar to someone who needed it more. Worked double shifts to buy Christmas presents for kids who weren't even hers. Sounds familiar. I'm nothing like her. You took care of a stranger's baby on a plane. You're taking care of him now, even while you're hurt. Nia turned to study his face in the pool lights, looking for the lie or the angle. She found only honesty that made her chest tight. Why are you really helping me, Matt? Because you helped me first. That's not an answer. Matt was quiet for a long moment, watching Milo splash his tiny hands in the water, giggling at the ripples he created. My ex-wife used to say I collected people like trophies. Beautiful things to display at charity events and board meetings. He met Nia's eyes. You're the first person who didn't want to be collected. The honesty hung between them, heavier than the humid night air. Nia felt something shift in her chest, a wall cracking that she'd built brick by brick to survive childhood poverty and adult disappointment. Matt. A car door slammed in the circular driveway. High heels clicked across marble floors with military precision. A woman's voice, sharp with controlled fury. Matthew, I know you're here. Matt's face went white. Stay here with Milo. But it was too late. His ex-wife appeared in the patio doorway like a storm cloud in designer clothes. Her eyes swept from Matt to Nia to the baby between them, taking in the domestic scene with barely concealed rage. You're already replacing me? She asked, voice dripping poison. I'm not replacing anyone, Nia said quietly, not moving from her spot by the pool. I'm not even staying. That's not your decision to make, Matt said, the words surprising everyone, including himself. His ex-wife's perfectly sculpted face twisted with something ugly. We'll see about that. My lawyer will be very interested in your new arrangement, especially with our custody hearing next month. The threat hung in the air like smoke after she left. Nia immediately stood, heading for the house. Where are you going? Matt asked. To pack. I won't be the reason you lose your son. Have you ever felt at home in someone else's space? When did you know you belonged somewhere new? Drop a comment if you think she should stay or if getting involved is too risky. That night, when Matt found Nia folding her few belongings into the same worn duffel bag she'd arrived with, he did something that stopped her cold. He locked the bedroom door and asked her to dance. They danced in silence to music only they could hear, and in that dance, surrendered to something bigger than logic. What are you doing? Nia asked as Matt turned the lock with deliberate slowness. Something I should have done days ago. The guest room felt smaller with him in it, charged with electricity that had been building between them all week. City lights streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting them in gold and shadow. There's no music, she said, even as her body swayed toward his. We don't need music. His hands settled on her waist, gentle over the bruises that were finally fading from purple to yellow. Her palms found his shoulders, fingers spreading across the expensive cotton of his shirt. They moved in slow circles on the plush carpet, finding rhythm in their shared breathing, in the distant hum of traffic far below, in the beating of two hearts that had somehow learned to match tempo. This is crazy, she whispered against his chest. Everything worth having is crazy. Her head found its way to the space above his heart, listening to the steady beat that had become as familiar as her own. For the first time since the attack, since her mother's death, since longer than she could remember, she felt completely safe. What are we doing, Matt? I don't know, but I don't want to stop. The dance became something else without either of them deciding to change it. His thumb traced the line of her jaw where a bruise used to be. Her fingers tangled in the dark hair at the base of his neck, pulling him closer. When she looked up, his face was inches from hers, his breath warm against her lips. Are you sure? He asked, giving her every chance to pull away. I'm sure I want to stop thinking. Stop being afraid. Stop running from anything good. The kiss started gentle, questioning. Her answer came in the way she pressed closer, open to him. Let him taste the sweetness she'd been hiding behind defensive walls built from years of disappointment. He lifted her easily, carried her to the bed like she weighed nothing precious. His touch worshipped every place that had been hurt, kissed away fears that had lived in her bones since childhood. You're so beautiful it hurts to look at you, he whispered against her skin. Then don't look, she breathed back, pulling his shirt over his head. Feel. They made love like they were healing each other. Every touch asked permission. Every kiss gave an answer. He treated her body like something sacred, something worth protecting and cherishing. She'd never known intimacy could feel safe and wild at the same time. Never known someone could see all her scars, physical and emotional, and find them beautiful. Afterward, they lay tangled in sheets that cost more than her monthly rent, her head on his chest while his fingers traced lazy patterns on her skin. "This is dangerous," she said into the quiet darkness. "Everything worth having is dangerous. What if I break your heart? What if you don't?" Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy, sirens and car horns, and the distant thump of music from rooftop parties. Inside their bubble, they created their own world where differences in bank accounts didn't matter, where connection trumped common sense. What did you know someone was going to change your life forever? What was the moment you couldn't turn back? Hit subscribe if you believe love is supposed to be dangerous, supposed to change you completely. Morning came with harsh reality crashing through their peaceful bubble. Matt's phone buzzed with message after message, call after call, emails flooding in faster than he could read them. Someone had been watching, waiting, documenting their private moments for public consumption. The headlines would destroy everything they just built. Love feels invincible until the whole world decides to destroy it. Matt's phone screen lit up with notifications that made his stomach drop. Photos of them by the pool taken with telephoto lenses. Pictures of her in his guest room window. Headlines that twisted their story into something ugly and cheap. Billionaire's mystery woman, gold digger, or true love. From funeral to fortune, how one flight changed everything. Matthew Roth's rebound. Hospital romance or calculated move? Each article painted Nia as a schemer who'd planned everything from the airplane encounter to the hospital emergency. Him as a lonely fool, thinking with everything except his brain. The comment sections were worse than the headlines. Racial slurs mixed with assumptions about her motives. People who'd never met her decided she was using him, planning to trap him with pregnancy, playing the long game for his fortune. "We need to discuss this situation immediately," his business partner David Chun said over the phone before Matt had even finished his morning coffee. "The board meeting is in 2 hours. This scandal is affecting stock prices." Matt paced his home office while Nia slept upstairs, exhausted from their night together. Outside his gates, photographers waited with telephoto lenses, hoping for another shot to sell to the highest bidder. "My personal life doesn't affect business decisions," Matt said, keeping his voice low. "Everything affects business when you're the face of the company. This woman could be a serious liability. The optics are terrible. Her name is Nia. Her name is irrelevant. What matters is damage control. End it quietly, pay her whatever she wants to disappear, and we move on." But Matt wasn't listening anymore. He was watching Nia appear in his office doorway, wearing his discarded shirt from the night before, looking lost and small in the morning light streaming through his windows. She'd seen the headlines. Her face told the whole story: humiliation, anger, fear, and something that looked like heartbreak. "I should go," she said quietly, not stepping into the room. "No, Matt, look at this." She held up her phone, showing him comment after comment, calling her every name except her own. "They're saying I planned this, that I researched you, targeted you, seduced you for money. Let them talk. People always talk. Your business partner wants me gone. I heard him through the door. He doesn't get a vote in my personal life." But even as he said it, Matt felt the walls closing in from all sides. His company's stock had dropped 3 points overnight. Major investors were calling emergency meetings. The custody battle with his ex-wife was about to get nuclear. What if they're right? Nia asked, tears threatening to spill over. "What if I'm bad for you? You're the best thing that's happened to me in years. Am I? Or am I just convenient? The first woman who didn't want your money, so you convince yourself it meant something special." The question hit harder than any newspaper headline. Matt crossed to her, cupped her face in his hands, forced her to look at him. "You think this is about convenience? You think I'm risking everything I've built for convenience?" Tears spilled over her cheeks, hot against his palms. I don't know what this is anymore. Yesterday, I was nobody. Today, I'm trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. His kiss tasted like salt and desperation. They made love against his office door with photographers waiting outside, hungry for scandal. Every touch was defiant. Every whispered endearment a middle finger to the world trying to tear them apart. But when they broke apart, breathing hard, the reality hadn't changed. The headlines were still there. The threats to his business still real. The custody battle still looming. Have you ever had to choose between love and everything else? What did you choose? Do you regret it? Comment fight if you think they should battle the world together, or flight if walking away is the smart choice. That night, Nia's phone rang at midnight with an unknown number. The voice on the other end revealed information that changed everything they thought they knew about their meeting. It wasn't fate. It wasn't coincidence. Someone had wanted them together, and someone else would kill to keep them apart. Their love story wasn't written in the stars. It was carefully planned by someone who needed them to meet and someone who needed them destroyed. You don't know me, the voice said, but I know everything about you and Matthew Roth. Everything about that flight. Everything about what's been happening since. Nia gripped the phone tighter, her other hand reaching for Matt, who was instantly awake beside her. Who is this? Someone who needs to tell you the truth before more people get hurt. Before this goes too far. The caller's voice was female, older, with the careful diction of someone used to delivering bad news professionally. What truth? Matt took the phone, putting it on speaker. Check your email. I'm sending you proof. Photos flooded Nia's phone within seconds. Flight manifests showing last-minute seat changes. Bank transfers from shell companies with anonymous owners. Hotel receipts and rental car agreements. A paper trail that made her blood run cold. Your seat assignment wasn't random, the woman continued. Your mother's medical bills being rejected by 3 different insurance companies wasn't coincidence. Your nursing scholarship being pulled 2 weeks before graduation, that wasn't bad luck. Matt sat up straighter, his business mind putting pieces together faster than his heart wanted to accept them. What are you saying? I'm saying someone wanted Nia Brooks on that specific flight, in that specific seat, desperate enough to help any crying baby that might need her attention. The private investigator's photos spread across Matt's laptop screen like evidence of a crime scene. Flight manifests with handwritten notes. Bank transfers that traced back to shell companies. Hospital records that had been altered and re-altered. Their beautiful accident had been someone else's calculated plan. Who hired you? Nia asked, though she was starting to fear the answer. Your ex-wife, Mr. Roth. 6 months ago, she wanted to create a scandal that would prove you were an unfit father who'd sleep with anyone convenient. Nia was supposed to be the perfect bait, beautiful, desperate, grateful. Matt felt sick, so the crying baby was supposed to happen. I arranged for Milo to be extra fussy that day. Switched his formula to one that would upset his stomach. Your ex-wife wanted you to look incompetent as a father. Nia stood abruptly, pacing to the window. So I was hired help, a prop in your divorce drama. You were supposed to be, but then you actually helped instead of just flirting. You refused his money instead of taking it. You made everything complicated by being real. The attack after her mother's funeral suddenly made perfect sense. The perfectly timed paparazzi photos. The coordinated media campaign painting her as a gold digger when she'd never asked for a penny. The people who jumped me in the hospital parking lot, hired to scare you away from Mr. Roth. When genuine kindness turned into something that looked like real feelings, certain people panicked. Matt was already reaching for his phone, calling his security team, his lawyers. But the investigator wasn't finished. Here's where it gets interesting, and why I'm risking my career to tell you this. Your ex-wife started this mess, but she's not the one trying to destroy you now. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Matt's business partner, David Chun, had been buying up company shares while Matt was distracted by scandal, planning a hostile takeover while Matt's reputation crumbled in tabloid headlines. He needed you vulnerable, distracted, making emotional decisions instead of business ones, the woman explained. Having you fall for someone was perfect for his plans. But having you fall for someone genuine, someone who might actually make you happy, that was dangerous to his timeline. Nia stared at the evidence spread across the bed, feeling violated and used in ways that went beyond physical assault. How do I know what we have is real if it started as someone else's manipulation? Matt pulled her close, his voice fierce with certainty. Because manipulation creates lies to get what it wants. What we have creates truth even when it's inconvenient. What truth? That I love you, not because of how we met, but because of who you are. The words hung in the air between them, the first time either had said them out loud. If you found out your relationship started because of someone else's plan, would that change how you felt? Does the origin matter if the love is real? Share this video if you believe love finds a way to grow, even in soil that was never meant to nurture it. With 48 hours until the custody hearing that would determine Milo's future, Matt faced an impossible choice: expose the conspiracy and risk losing everything in the legal battle, or sacrifice his love to save his son. But Nia was about to make that choice for him. Some phone calls come at 2 a.m. because the world is ending. Others come because it's just beginning. Matt's phone buzzed against the hotel nightstand. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, until he remembered giving his contact to someone who might need help. Hello. His voice came out rough with sleep. It's Nia. Her words shook. I shouldn't have called you. He sat up instantly, fully awake. What's wrong? I'm at Cedars-Sinai. Emergency room. A shaky breath. Someone attacked me after the funeral. They took my purse, my mother's jewelry. Everything. I was already reaching for his clothes. Are you hurt? Some bruises. A few stitches. But I don't have insurance for this. I don't have money for. I'm coming. No, you don't understand. I can't pay you back. I have nothing left. I'm not asking for anything back. 20 minutes later, Matt walked into the hospital carrying Milo's car seat. The fluorescence turned everything ghostly pale. Her bruises, his expensive clothes, the space between them that suddenly felt charged with more than just crisis. Nia sat on the examination table in a hospital gown, looking smaller than she had on the plane. Purple bruises decorated her left cheek and collarbone. Butterfly bandages held a cut on her forehead closed. You came, she said, like she couldn't believe it. You called. The simple exchange carried weight neither wanted to examine. Matt set Milo's carrier down, approached slowly like she might bolt. What happened? 3 guys jumped me in the parking lot after the service. Said I didn't belong in that neighborhood. Her voice stayed steady, but her hands shook. They knew I'd been at a funeral. They were waiting. The thought of someone hurting her made his chest burn. This woman who'd shown kindness to a stranger's child, attacked for existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm completely alone now, she whispered. No family, no money, no plan. Matt pulled out his phone, started making calls. Insurance coordinator, billing department, his personal attorney. What are you doing? Nia asked. Fixing this. I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing to help. Within an hour, every bill was covered. Her medical costs, follow-up appointments, even replacement documents. Matt signed forms and made transfers while Nia watched in stunned silence. Have you ever called someone you barely knew in a crisis? What made you trust them? Share your story. Like this video if you believe sometimes strangers become family faster than family becomes strangers. As he signed the hospital paperwork, insurance, bills, everything, she grabbed his wrist. This doesn't make me yours, she whispered fiercely. He leaned closer, voice dropping to barely audible. Good. Because I was starting to think I might be yours. She healed in his guest room for a week, but the real recovery happened in conversations that stretched past midnight. Matt's Beverly Hills house felt like a museum, all glass and marble, designed to impress rather than comfort. But something changed when Nia moved through it. Her presence made the cold spaces feel warmer. You don't have to stay, she said for the 10th time, standing in the doorway of the guest suite. Doctor said someone should watch for concussion symptoms. Matt replied, not looking up from feeding Milo breakfast. I'm fine. You passed out yesterday, folding laundry. That was different, but she didn't leave. And Matt didn't ask her to. Their days developed a rhythm. Matt worked from home while Nia recovered. She helped with Milo when she felt strong enough teaching Matt tricks she'd learned caring for her younger siblings. How to read the baby's different cries, which foods would make him sleep longer, why bouncing worked better than rocking. Evenings found them by the infinity pool, city lights reflecting like fallen stars in the water. They sat at the edge with Milo between them, feet dangling in warm water while night air carried the scent of jasmine. "Tell me about your mother," Matt said one night. "She was everything I'm not. Patient, forgiving. She'd give her last dollar to someone who needed it more." Nia's voice went soft. "She worked herself to death, taking care of everyone else." "Sounds familiar. I'm nothing like her. You took care of a stranger's baby on a plane. You're taking care of him now." Nia turned to study his face in the pool lights. "Why are you really helping me?" "Because you helped me first." "That's not an answer." Matt was quiet for a long moment, watching Milo splash his tiny hands in the water. "My ex-wife used to say I collected people like trophies. Beautiful things to display at parties." He met Nia's eyes. "You're the first person who didn't want to be collected." The honesty hung between them, heavier than the night air. Nia felt something shift in her chest, a wall cracking that she'd built to survive. "Matt." A car door slammed in the driveway. Footsteps clicked across marble. A woman's voice, sharp with anger. "Matthew, I know you're here." Matt's face went white. "Stay here." But it was too late. His ex-wife stood in the patio doorway, designer heels in fury. Her eyes swept from Matt to Nia to the baby between them. "You're already replacing me?" she asked, voice dripping poison. "I'm not replacing anyone," Nia said quietly. "I'm not even staying." "That's not your decision to make," Matt said. The word surprised everyone, including him. Have you ever felt at home in someone else's space? When did you know you belonged somewhere new? Drop a comment if you think she should stay or if getting involved is too risky. After his ex-wife left with threats about custody and lawyers, Nia started packing. But when Matt found her folding her few belongings, he did something that stopped her cold. He locked the bedroom door and asked her to dance. They danced in silence to music only they could hear, and in that dance surrendered to something bigger than logic. "What are you doing?" Nia asked as Matt turned the lock. "Something I should have done days ago." No music played, but their bodies found rhythm anyway. His hands settled on her waist, hers on his shoulders. They moved in slow circles while city lights painted them in gold and shadow. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Everything worth having is crazy." Her head found its way to his chest, over his heart. The steady beat matched their movement. For the first time since the attack, she felt completely safe. "What are we doing, Matt?" "I don't know, but I don't want to stop." The dance became something else. His thumb traced the line of her jaw. Her fingers tangled in his hair. When she looked up, his face was inches from hers. The kiss started gentle, questioning. Her answer came in the way she pressed closer, open to him. Let him taste the sweetness she'd been hiding behind defensive walls. "Are you sure?" he breathed against her lips. "I'm sure I want to stop thinking." He lifted her easily, carried her to the bed like she weighed nothing. His touch worshipped the places that had been hurt, kissed away the fear that had lived in her bones since childhood. "You're so beautiful it hurts to look at you," he whispered. "Then don't look," she breathed back. "Feel." They made love like they were healing each other. Every touch asked permission. Every kiss gave an answer. He treated her body like something precious, something worth protecting. Afterward, they lay tangled in expensive sheets, her head on his chest while his fingers traced patterns on her skin. "This is dangerous," she said. "Everything worth having is dangerous. What if I break your heart? What if you don't?" Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy. Inside, they created their own world where differences in bank accounts didn't matter, where connection trumped common sense. When did you know someone was going to change your life forever? What was the moment you couldn't turn back? Hit subscribe if you believe love is supposed to be dangerous, supposed to change you completely. But morning came with harsh reality. His phone buzzed with messages, calls, emails, paparazzi photos from unknown sources. Someone had been watching, waiting, documenting their private moments for public consumption. The headlines would destroy everything they just built. Love feels invincible until the whole world decides to destroy it. Matt's phone screen showed the damage. Photos of them by the pool. Pictures of her in his guest room. Headlines that made his stomach turn. Billionaire's mystery woman. Gold digger or true love. From funeral to fortune. How one flight changed everything. Matthew Roth's rebound. Hospital romance or calculated move. Each article painted Nia as a schemer, him as a fool. The comment section was worse. Racial slurs mixed with assumptions about her motives. People who'd never met her decided she was using him, planning to trap him, playing the long game for his money. "We need to discuss this situation," his business partner said over the phone. "The board is concerned about your judgment." Matt paced his office while Nia slept upstairs, recovering from their night together. Outside, photographers waited with telephoto lenses, hoping for another shot. "My personal life doesn't affect business decisions," Matt said. "Everything affects business. This woman could be a liability. Her name is Nia. Her name is irrelevant. What matters is damage control." But Matt wasn't listening anymore. He was watching Nia appear in his doorway, wearing his shirt, looking lost and small in the morning light. She'd seen the headlines. Her face told the whole story. "I should go," she said quietly. "No. Matt, look at this." She held up her phone. "They're calling me every name except my own. They're saying I planned this, that I targeted you. Let them talk. Your business partner wants me gone. He doesn't get a vote." But even as he said it, Matt felt the walls closing in. His company's stock had dropped 3 points overnight. Investors were asking questions. The custody battle with his ex-wife was about to get uglier. "What if they're right?" Nia asked. "What if I'm bad for you? You're the best thing that's happened to me. Am I? Or am I just convenient? The first woman who didn't want your money?" The question hit harder than any headline. Matt crossed to her, cupped her face in his hands. "You think this is about convenience? You think I'm risking everything I've built for convenience?" Tears spilled over her cheeks. "I don't know what this is. Yesterday I was nobody. Today I'm trending on social media." His kiss tasted like salt and desperation. They made love against his office door while photographers waited outside, hungry for scandal. Every touch was defiant. Every moan a middle finger to the world, trying to tear them apart. Have you ever had to choose between love and everything else? What did you choose? Do you regret it? Comment fight if you think they should battle the world together, or flight if walking away is the smart choice. That night, Nia's phone rang with an unknown number. The voice on the other end revealed information that changed everything they thought they knew about their meeting. It wasn't fate. It wasn't coincidence. Someone wanted them together, and someone else would kill to keep them apart. Their love story wasn't written in the stars. It was planned by someone who needed them to meet, and someone who needed them destroyed. "You don't know me," the voice said, "but I know everything about you and Matthew Roth." Nia gripped the phone tighter. Matt sat beside her on the bed, close enough to hear. "Who is this?" "Someone who needs to tell you the truth before more people get hurt." The caller sent photos to her phone. Flight manifests, bank transfers, hotel receipts, a paper trail that made her blood run cold. "Your seat assignment wasn't random," the voice continued. "Your mother's medical bills being rejected by 3 different insurance companies wasn't coincidence. Your scholarship being pulled wasn't bad luck." Matt took the phone. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying someone wanted Nia on that specific flight, sitting in that specific seat, desperate enough to help any crying baby that might need her." The private investigator's photos spread across Matt's laptop screen like evidence of a crime. Flight manifests showing last-minute seat changes. Bank transfers from shell companies. Hospital records that had been altered. Their beautiful accident had been someone else's calculated plan. "Who?" Matt's voice came out deadly quiet. "Your ex-wife hired me to document everything. She wanted scandal. Wanted to prove you were an unfit father who'd sleep with anyone convenient." Nia felt sick. "So I was bait. You were supposed to be, but then you actually helped instead of just flirting. You refused his money instead of taking it. You complicated everything." The attack after her mother's funeral suddenly made sense. The perfectly timed paparazzi photos. The coordinated media campaign painting her as a gold digger. "The people who jumped me. Hired to scare you away from Matt. When kindness turned into something real, someone panicked. Matt stood, rage radiating from every muscle. Who's behind this? That's where it gets interesting. Your ex-wife started it, but she's not the one trying to destroy you now. The revelation hit like a physical blow. His business partner, David Chun, had been buying up shares while Matt was distracted by the scandal, planning a hostile takeover while Matt's reputation crumbled. He needed you vulnerable, distracted, making bad decisions, the investigator said. Having you fall for someone was perfect. Having you fall for someone real? That was dangerous. Nia stared at the evidence, feeling violated and used. How do I know what we have is real if it started as manipulation? Matt pulled her close. Because manipulation creates lies. What we have creates truth. What truth? That I love you regardless of how we met. The words hung in the air between them. The first time either had said them out loud. If you found out your relationship started because of someone else's plan, would that change how you felt? Does the origin matter if the love is real? Share this video if you believe love finds a way, even when people try to control it. With 48 hours until the custody hearing that would determine Milo's future, Matt had a choice. Expose the conspiracy and risk losing everything, or sacrifice his love to save his son. But Nia was about to make that choice for him. Sometimes loving someone means walking away before they can choose to leave you first. Nia stared at the custody papers spread across Matt's kitchen counter. Tomorrow's hearing would decide if Milo stayed with his father or went to live with his manipulative mother. The evidence of conspiracy sat beside legal documents like two different versions of truth fighting for space. We expose everything, Matt said, pacing behind her. David's takeover attempt, my ex-wife's manipulation, all of it. And give her ammunition for the custody battle? Make you look unstable, paranoid, unable to focus on your son? Nia shook her head. She'll say you're choosing a woman over Milo's well-being. I'm choosing truth over lies. Truth doesn't always win in court. Money and perception do. The words hung between them like smoke from a fire neither wanted to start. Outside, photographers still waited at the gates, cameras ready to document their next move. Inside, Milo slept peacefully in his crib, unaware his entire future balanced on decisions made by adults who claimed to love him. Nia's phone buzzed with a text from her cousin in Detroit, saw the news. Hospital bills, all paid. You coming home? Home. The word felt foreign now, like clothing that no longer fit. Detroit meant safety from scandal, distance from photographers, return to a life that made sense. It also meant leaving behind the first man who'd ever seen her scars and called them beautiful. What if I leave? She asked quietly. Matt stopped pacing. What? Tomorrow morning, before the hearing. I disappear. The scandal dies down. You focus on keeping Milo. David's takeover fails because you're not distracted anymore. Absolutely not. Why? Because you love me? Or because you hate losing? The question hit like a slap. Matt turned to face her fully, his jaw tight, with barely controlled emotion. You think this is about winning and losing? I think you're used to getting what you want. And right now you want me. But what happens when keeping me costs you your son? Her words came out sharper than she intended, edged with fears she'd carried since childhood. Every good thing in her life had eventually been taken away. Her father when she was 6. Her brothers when social services split them up. Her mother when cancer won. Her education when money ran out. Now she was preparing to take herself away before someone else could do it for her. Nia. Matt's voice went soft, dangerous. Look at me. She kept her eyes on the papers, afraid of what she'd see in his face. Afraid she'd lose her resolve if she saw the pain she was causing. I said, look at me. When she finally met his gaze, she found something that made her breath catch. Not anger, not manipulation, just raw, honest devastation. You think I'd choose anything over you? He asked. You should choose your son over me. Any good father would. What if there's another way? There isn't. Your ex-wife wins if I stay. David wins if you're distracted fighting for us. Milo loses everything while the adults play games with his life. Matt crossed to her, took her hands in his. His fingers trembled against her palms. Don't do this. Someone has to be the grown-up here. The grown-up choice is fighting for what matters. What matters is Milo having a stable home with his father, not growing up in the middle of a media circus because his dad fell for the wrong woman at the wrong time. Tears threatened to spill over her cheeks, but she held them back through sheer will. If she was going to break both their hearts, she'd do it cleanly. No messy emotions to make him second-guess her decision. "Pack me a bag," she said, standing abruptly. "I'll take the red-eye back to Detroit. By morning, this will all be over." "It doesn't have to be over." "Yes, it does." She walked toward the guest room, where she'd spent the happiest week of her adult life. Behind her, Matt stood frozen in his kitchen, watching the woman he loved choose his happiness over her own. What would you sacrifice for love? Your happiness? Your future? Someone else's? Drop a heart if you've ever had to let someone go to save them from yourself. But Matt wasn't done fighting. As Nia packed her few belongings for the second time in days, he made a phone call that would change everything. Sometimes the person who loves you most is willing to risk everything to prove they're worth the risk. When someone you love is determined to sacrifice themselves for you, sometimes you have to save them from their own nobility. Matt found Nia in the guest bathroom, staring at her reflection in the mirror like she was memorizing a face she'd never see again. Her packed bag sat on the bed behind her, ready for another escape. "I called my lawyer," he said from the doorway. "Good. Focus on tomorrow's hearing. I'm not fighting for custody." The words stopped her cold. She turned slowly, certain she'd misheard. "What did you say?" "I'm giving my ex-wife what she wants. Joint custody. Share holidays. Every other weekend. Whatever keeps Milo safe from this mess I created." Nia felt the world tilt sideways. "Matt, no. You can't. Watch me." His voice stayed calm, but his hands clenched into fists. "You want to sacrifice yourself for my son's happiness? I'll sacrifice my pride for yours. That's not the same thing, isn't it? We're both choosing love over what we want most." She crossed him, grabbed his shirt in her fists. "Milo needs you. You're his father. His mother is manipulative and selfish, and she'll get tired of using him as a weapon once there's no war to fight. But she'll take care of him. She's not evil, Nia, just hurt and angry." Tears finally spilled over her cheeks. "You're giving up your son for me. I'm choosing to trust that love finds a way, even when the path looks impossible." His hands cupped her face, thumbs wiping away tears that kept coming faster than he could catch them. "What if you're wrong?" she whispered. "What if I'm right?" They held each other in the bathroom that had become their confessional, her tears soaking his shirt while his breathing stayed steady against her hair. Outside, Los Angeles hummed with late-night energy. Inside their bubble, time felt suspended. "There's something else," Matt said after a long moment. "Please tell me you're not giving away your company too. I'm exposing everything. The manipulation, the conspiracy, David's takeover attempt. All of it. Tonight." Nia pulled back to look at him. "That'll destroy your business reputation." "My reputation was built on image management and careful PR. Maybe it's time to try honesty instead." "Honesty doesn't pay bills." "No, but it lets you sleep at night knowing who you really are." He pulled out his phone, showed her the press release his publicist had drafted an hour ago. A complete confession of everything they discovered. His ex-wife's manipulation, David's betrayal, the private investigator's evidence, even his own mistakes in handling the situation. "This will ruin you," Nia said, reading the brutal honesty on the screen. "Or it'll free me to build something real for the first time in my life." She studied his face, looking for the fear or doubt that should be there. Instead, she found peace. The kind that came from finally making a decision that aligned with who you wanted to be instead of who you thought you had to be. What if people don't believe you? What if they think this is just another rich guy's spin? Then I'll deal with the consequences. But I won't build our future on lies, even lies that protect us. Our future. The words hung in the air between them, fragile and precious as spun glass. "I'm still leaving," she said, though the conviction had leaked out of her voice. "No, you're not. How can you be so sure?" "Because you love me too much to run away from the truth." The kiss that followed tasted like salt and surrender. They made love on the bathroom floor with desperate urgency, like they were trying to memorize each other's touch before the world ended or began again. Have you ever watched someone risk everything for love? What did it teach you about what love actually means? Comment truth if you think honesty is always worth the cost, or survival if sometimes protecting yourself has to come first. At midnight, Matt sent the press release to every major news outlet in the country. By dawn, their story would be front-page news again. But this time, they'd be telling it in their own words. And Nia would have to decide if she was brave enough to stand beside him while the world watched their love story unfold in real time. When you stop running from your story and start telling it yourself, you discover which people were worth the risk all along. The headline on Matt's phone screen at 6 a.m. made Nia's stomach drop. Billionaire's shocking confession. Our love story started as someone else's revenge plot. Every major news outlet had picked up the story. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, entertainment blogs, social media influencers. Their faces stared back from screens across the country as morning show hosts debated whether Matt was brave or stupid for exposing his own scandal. Matthew Roth's unprecedented transparency regarding manipulation within his personal relationships raises questions about corporate governance. Nia read aloud from the Wall Street Journal's early edition. Investors are questioning whether a CEO who admits to being deceived in his private life can be trusted with billion-dollar business decisions. Matt's company stock had dropped another 8 points overnight. His business phone hadn't stopped ringing since 5 a.m. Board members demanded emergency meetings. Investors wanted explanations. His assistant had resigned via text message. But Matt sat at his kitchen counter feeding Milo breakfast, completely calm while his empire crumbled around him. Aren't you worried? Nia asked, scrolling through increasingly harsh commentary on social media. About what? Your company, your reputation, your entire life imploding on national television. The company will survive or it won't. My reputation was fake anyway, and my life isn't imploding. He wiped applesauce from Milo's chin with gentle patience. It's finally getting honest. The custody hearing was in 3 hours. Matt had withdrawn his challenge to the joint custody arrangement, but his ex-wife's lawyers were pushing for full custody now, using his mental instability and poor judgment as evidence he was unfit to parent. They're going to crucify you in there, Nia said. Probably. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with knowing I told the truth. His phone buzzed with a call from David Chun. Matt declined it without looking up from Milo's breakfast. Seventh call from your business partner, Nia observed. Former business partner. You're not even curious what he has to say? David's agenda has nothing to do with my well-being or my son's future. Why would I waste time listening to more lies? The simplicity of his logic stunned her. Matt had spent 40 years building an empire based on strategy, image management, and calculated risks. Now he was throwing it all away for something as unpredictable as love. What if I'm not worth all this? She asked quietly. Matt looked up from Milo's high chair, his eyes sharp with something that might have been anger. Don't what? Don't insult both of us by pretending this is about your worth. This is about choosing who I want to be when nobody's watching. But people are watching. The whole world is watching. Good. Let them see what happens when someone stops performing and starts living. The doorbell rang. Through the security monitor, they could see reporters crowding the front gate, cameras and microphones ready to capture whatever came next. Matt ignored them completely. I need to get ready for court, he said, lifting Milo from his high chair. What should I do? Whatever feels right to you. The non-answer frustrated her. That's not helpful. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, Nia. You've had enough people trying to control your decisions. She followed him upstairs, watching him change into a dark suit that probably cost more than she'd made in a year. But he wore it like armor, not decoration, like someone preparing for battle instead of a business meeting. Will you be there? He asked, adjusting his tie in the bedroom mirror. At the hearing? Wherever. Tonight. Tomorrow. Next week when the dust settles and we figure out what's left. The question hung between them, loaded with everything they hadn't said. Nia looked at this man who'd risked everything for honesty, who'd chosen truth over comfort, who was about to walk into a courtroom and face consequences most people would do anything to avoid. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, what?" "Yes, I'll be there. All of it. Whatever comes next." The smile that spread across Matt's face could have powered the city. Well, have you seen someone choose integrity over security? What did it cost them? What did it teach you? Share this story if you believe some things are worth losing everything for. But the courtroom held surprises neither of them expected. Sometimes when you stop trying to control the outcome surprises you in ways you never imagined. The custody hearing was about to reveal which relationships were built on love and which were built on something much more dangerous. The courtroom became a stage where truth and lies performed for an audience of one judge who'd seen every kind of family drama imaginable. Judge Maria Santos had presided over family court for 15 years. She'd seen custody battles that destroyed children while parents fought over pride instead of love. The Roth case file on her desk was thicker than most divorces, complicated by money, media attention, and accusations that made her question everyone's motives. Matt sat at the defendant's table with his lawyer, hands folded, watching his ex-wife testify about his reckless behavior and questionable judgment. She painted a picture of a man who'd abandoned his responsibilities for a woman he barely knew, who'd exposed their private family matters to public scrutiny, who'd proven himself emotionally unstable and unfit to parent. "Your Honor," she said, dabbing her eyes with tissue that didn't need to be there. "I fear for my son's safety in Matthew's home. He's clearly having some kind of breakdown." Her lawyer presented the tabloid articles, the social media coverage, the business news about plummeting stock prices. Everything painted Matt as a man spiraling out of control. But they'd made one critical mistake. They'd underestimated Judge Santos's ability to smell manipulation from across a crowded courtroom. "Mrs. Roth," the judge said, leaning forward slightly, "you filed for increased custody 3 days ago, immediately following news coverage of your ex-husband's relationship. Can you explain why your concerns about his parenting suddenly intensified after months of shared custody with no previous complaints?" The question caught her off guard. The media attention created an unsafe environment for Milo. The media attention that began immediately after you hired a private investigator to document your ex-husband's personal life. Matt's lawyer had done her homework. The judge had copies of every bank transfer, every invoice from the investigation, every piece of evidence showing the conspiracy to create scandal. "Your Honor, I was protecting my child's interests. By manipulating circumstances to make the father appear unfit, by orchestrating situations designed to create the very instability you're now claiming concerns you." The courtroom fell silent, except for the soft scratch of the court reporter's fingers across her keyboard. Matt felt something loosen in his chest that had been tight for months. His ex-wife's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." Judge Santos opened the folder containing the private investigator's evidence. Photos of bank transfers, copies of altered medical records, documentation showing how Nia's mother's insurance had been systematically rejected by companies with financial ties to shell corporations owned by David Chun. "Mrs. Roth, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you hire Amanda Walsh Investigations to create circumstances that would make your ex-husband appear to be an unfit parent?" The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Matt's ex-wife looked at her lawyer, who was studying his hands like they held the secrets of the universe. "Yes," she whispered finally. The admission rippled through the courtroom like a stone thrown in still water. Matt felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Just sadness for the woman who'd once promised to love him forever, but had chosen revenge instead. "Your Honor," Matt's lawyer stood, "we'd like to present additional evidence regarding Mr. David Chen's involvement in this conspiracy and his attempted hostile takeover of my client's company." What followed was an hour of testimony that unraveled David's entire scheme, using the custody battle as distraction while he bought up shares, hiring people to attack Nia to drive her away from Matt, creating a media circus designed to make Matt look unstable while David positioned himself as the stable alternative for company leadership. Judge Santos listened to everything with the expression of someone who'd heard every possible variation of human greed and stupidity. "Mr. Roth," she said finally, "you've admitted to poor judgment in how you handled this situation. You've acknowledged that your relationship with Ms. Brooks developed quickly during a vulnerable time. You've confessed to making business and personal decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Why should I trust you with your son's welfare?" Matt stood slowly, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders like a familiar coat. "Because I'm learning the difference between controlling outcomes and loving people. Because I'd rather be honest about my mistakes than successful at hiding them. Because my son deserves a father who chooses truth over convenience, even when truth is harder." He paused, looking directly at the judge. "And because the people who tried to destroy my life got one thing right, I do love Ms. Brooks. But not because she was convenient or beautiful or willing to be collected like some trophy. I love her because she's the first person who saw all my flaws and chose to help anyway. She taught me how to be a better father by showing me how to be a better man." The judge made notes, her expression unreadable. "Ms. Brooks," she said, "please approach the bench." Nia's heart stopped. She hadn't expected to be called as a witness. "Do you think the judge made the right call? Have you ever seen justice work the way it's supposed to?" The next few minutes would determine not just Milo's future, but whether love could survive in a system designed to punish honesty. Judge Santos was about to make a decision that would surprise everyone in that courtroom, including herself. 2 years later, some flights still carry passengers toward their destiny. Others carry them home to the family they never expected to find. The plane to Detroit felt different this time. First-class seats filled with business travelers and tourists instead of photographers. No crying babies. No strangers in economy who would change everything with a simple act of kindness. Matt adjusted Milo's seatbelt, watching his now 2.5-year-old son play with toy airplanes that made engine noises when you pressed their wings. The custody ruling had given Matt primary custody with generous visitation for his ex-wife, who'd spent the last year in therapy learning the difference between love and control. "Daddy, when we get there, will Nia be at the airport?" Milo asked, his vocabulary exploding daily now that he was past the baby phase. "She'll be there," Matt promised. "And Grandma Mary?" "Grandma Mary will be there too." Grandma Mary was Nia's aunt, the woman who'd raised Nia's youngest cousins after their mother died. She'd become the grandmother Milo never had, teaching him to bake cookies and garden vegetables and speak enough Spanish to order food at her favorite restaurant. The move to Detroit had surprised everyone, including Matt. He'd sold his Beverly Hills house, transferred company operations to Michigan, and bought a sprawling farmhouse 40 minutes outside the city. Close enough to civilization, far enough from paparazzi who'd moved on to fresher scandals. His company had survived the hostile takeover attempt, stronger after purging corrupt board members and implementing new transparency policies. The stock price had recovered. Investor confidence had returned. But Matt's priorities had shifted in ways that couldn't be measured in quarterly reports. "Tell me the story again," Milo said, settling back in his seat as the plane leveled off at cruising altitude. "Which story? How you met Nia?" Matt smiled, pulling his son closer. "Well, there was this baby who wouldn't stop crying. Me, you, and you were very upset about something. My tummy hurt. Your tummy hurt, and I didn't know how to help you. But there was a lady sitting in the back of the airplane who knew exactly what to do." Milo giggled, loving this part of the story even though he'd heard it dozens of times. "And she came and made me feel better. She made us both feel better. And then you fell in love. Then we fell in love." What Matt didn't tell his son was how complicated that love had been to build into something lasting. How Nia had fought him every step of the way, convinced she didn't deserve happiness that came without struggle. How they'd spent months in couples therapy, learning to trust each other with the broken pieces of their separate histories. How Matt had to prove, over and over, that he loved who she was rather than who she might become for him. How Nia had to learn that accepting help wasn't the same as being rescued, that love could be a partnership instead of a transaction. The plane began its descent toward Detroit Metropolitan Airport. Through the window, Matt could see the city skyline, smaller than LA, but somehow more welcoming. Their city now. Their home. There she is, Milo squealed, pressing his face against the window as they walked through the terminal. Nia stood by the baggage claim in jeans and a sweater, her nursing degree finally complete after Matt had quietly paid for her to finish school. She worked at Children's Hospital now, in a NICU where her gentle touch and infinite patience helped premature babies fight for life. She wore his grandmother's ring on her left hand, the engagement as quiet and private as their wedding had been. No media coverage, no magazine deals. Just family and friends who'd watched them choose each other every day for 2 years running. "How was the conference?" she asked, wrapping Matt in arms that still made his heart race. "Boring without you." "Good answer." She kissed him thoroughly, not caring who watched. "How's my favorite co-pilot?" Milo launched into an excited recap of the flight, the hotel, the business meetings he'd attended like a tiny executive in training. Nia listened with the complete attention she gave everything that mattered, asking questions that made him feel important. Watching them together, Matt remembered that first night when she'd calmed his crying son with such natural grace. She'd been healing people her whole life. Now she got paid for it, recognition for skills that had always been there waiting to be valued. "Ready to go home?" she asked, shouldering Milo's backpack while Matt grabbed their luggage. "Ready." The drive to their farmhouse took them through neighborhoods that were slowly recovering from decades of economic decline. Past the community center where Nia volunteered teaching parenting classes. Past the elementary school where Milo would start kindergarten in the fall. Their house sat on 5 acres of land that included a vegetable garden, a chicken coop that was Milo's responsibility, and an old barn Matt was converting into a workshop where he could build furniture with his hands instead of just his mind. "Anything interesting happen while we were gone?" Matt asked as they pulled into their driveway. "Mrs. Patterson's dog had puppies. Milo's going to lose his mind when he sees them." "Can we keep one? We already have 2 dogs. Can we keep 2? Nia laughed, the sound filling the truck cab like music. "We'll discuss it." They'd learned the art of family negotiation, the give and take of building a life together that honored everyone's needs. It wasn't perfect. Nia still sometimes pulled away when she felt too happy, afraid it wouldn't last. Matt still occasionally tried to solve problems with money instead of patience. But they'd learned to catch themselves, to talk instead of assume, to fight for their relationship instead of against each other. That night, after Milo was asleep and the puppy situation had been temporarily resolved with promises to think about it, Matt and Nia sat on their front porch swing watching stars that were actually visible this far from the city. "Do you ever miss it?" Nia asked, her head on his shoulder. "Miss what?" "The excitement, the drama, the feeling like everything mattered more because it was complicated." Matt considered the question seriously. "I miss the intensity sometimes, the feeling like we were fighting the whole world together. But I like this better. I like knowing you're not going anywhere. I like boring Tuesday nights and grocery shopping and watching Milo learn to tie his shoes. You like domestic bliss. I like domestic bliss with you." She turned to look at him, searching his face for any signs of restlessness or regret. She found only contentment that ran deeper than passion, steadier than excitement. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too." The words carried different weight now than they had in that Beverly Hills hotel room 2 years ago. Less desperate, more certain, built on foundation instead of built on need. A plane passed overhead, its lights blinking red and white against the star-filled sky. Maybe carrying passengers toward their own unexpected destinies. Maybe bringing someone home to the family they'd chosen instead of the one they'd been born into. Think anyone on that plane is about to have their life changed by a crying baby? Nia asked. "Hope so," Matt said, pulling her closer. "Best thing that ever happened to us." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to crickets and distant traffic, watching the plane disappear into the darkness that would eventually give way to dawn. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new opportunities to choose each other all over again. But tonight, they were exactly where they belonged. Home, together, happy in ways that couldn't be bought or sold or manipulated by people who confused love with possession. Some flights change everything in a matter of hours. Others take years to reach their final destination. The best ones, Matt and Nia had learned, never really end. They just keep carrying you toward better versions of yourself, 1 mile at a time. The crying baby who'd brought them together was asleep upstairs, dreaming of puppies and airplanes and the kind of love that makes everything else possible. And somewhere in the distance, another plane was taking off into the night sky, carrying its own cargo of strangers who might become family, problems that might become blessings, endings that might actually be beginnings. The flight that changed everything had landed safely. The real journey was just getting started. The end.